a new direction for Content Creation Musings.
Hey, what's up, JD?
But if JD is anything like the rest of us, the first thing that popped into his head,
he was using, I think, the JD side of his brain.
JD, such a trite question.
What does this job mean to you personally, JD?
And JD is a great communicator.
Well, JD says,
JD, I don't use the word hillbilly.
Content Creation Musings with JD Sutter.
Welcome to the show. I talk about podcasting, blogging, new media, and other creative projects. You can find my content and connect with me at jdsutter.me. Today I'm talking about a bit of a new direction or focus for this show. You know, I have been involved in a lot of different creative projects over the years, and in the years since this show has begun, that scope of different types of projects has expanded quite a bit. I am a singer, audio drama producer, a writer, a voiceover artist. I've written some poetry, which I quite enjoy and will do some more of that. I've done some sound design work. I'm a podcast producer and editor, etc. And so I've got my hands in a lot of different types of creative projects, and most of them are being distributed through new media channels these days. And I find inspiration and ideas for all of these various creative outlets all over the place. And I wanted to be able to share them with you. And so I am sort of relaunching, reviving, whatever word you want to use, this particular show so that I can do just that. Now, originally, this show was a bit of an experiment with a specific podcast distribution platform, and also an experiment of producing a podcast entirely from a mobile device. You may not know this, but the first several episodes of this show were all recorded from a phone, and even the artwork of the podcast was created on a phone, on a mobile device. And so it was all about trying to do that, entirely creating a show with a mobile device. And why I say mobile device, because I also loop in a tablet, because I would a lot of times read my prompts and outline off of my tablet while recording on the phone. But that is not really needed anymore. That platform I don't use anymore that we were testing back in the day. It's still around, but in a different form. So that focus is not really needed. And so we're shifting things a little bit, though I may still record from my phone from time to time. I also wanted to have a place where I could respond to commonly asked questions from my coaching and consulting clients, and then I could use these episodes as a resource for when those same questions inevitably came up again in the future. I could point people directly to that, and they could get an answer real quickly. And that has definitely happened. I have done that multiple times over the years. But I wanted to expand things out a little bit, and not solely focus on a single tip, trick, or tool with each episode, and, just share some of the things that inspire me as a creative in new media. And so that's what we'll be doing. I will still be retaining the short, simple format, and with the exception of this new intro, which is pretty highly produced. A lot of elements went into that. And a huge shout out to voiceover artist Bethany Baldwin for the intro voiceover there. You can find her at bethanybaldwin.com if you want to hire a great female voice actress or voiceover artist to work with for your projects. Now, like I said, I want to expand this out a little bit more from just focusing really heavily on podcasting and blogging and, a single tip or trick. So it could be a passage from a book that I'm reading that really resonated with me, or something that I heard on a podcast that I think would be interesting to you, or a random thought that I had about creativity or storytelling that I think you might find valuable as you produce your own new media projects. So I don't anticipate having a set schedule or anything like that. I'm not to that point yet. I've still got a lot on my plate, as you can guess from the list of things that I'm involved with that I mentioned at the top. But my goal is to have, hopefully a few times a month, a short little episode with a thought or an idea that I think will be helpful to you. So here's an example of something that you might get in an upcoming episode. Several months ago, I was pondering, what is it about stories that we as humans love so much? Why are we drawn to storytelling? And I just find thoughts like that very interesting, and I like to break them down and look at all of the possibilities. And as a Christian, I think that part of it is that it's coded into us, into our DNA by God. I think that is a big part of it. But I think there's more to it than that, too. Humans are innately curious. And so I think there is a lot of different things, a lot of different factors, but I think there is a core reason behind all of those. And so this is what I came up with. Storytelling, at its core, is an attempt by humanity to make sense of the things we do not understand about the world. An effort to fully know that which is unknown about our existence on this plane, often through imagined glimpses into another. Because if you're like me, you're fascinated by fantasy stories or science fiction tales, and even just a contemporary fiction story is, on one level, a bit of escapism. And so we're looking at these varied storytelling settings, whether that's a fantasy world or another planet or a story set in New York City. We're looking at the events and the characters and the things that they're going through in this story, and maybe even if only on a subconscious level, I think we are comparing those things and how those characters react with our own lives and how we might react. And a lot of times we can glean interesting things from those stories, even if it is just a thriller novel. I approach all storytelling from that perspective of, what can I learn from this? What can I apply to my life? Whether that's something positive, like this is how I should handle this situation, this is how I might react, or whether it's negative. And this is definitely not what I would do. This is definitely not how one should handle this particular type of situation. So that's sort of one of my philosophies of life and storytelling, is trying to pull things out of stories that inspire me or are aspirational things as well. So that little quotation about storytelling is sort of the focus of this episode, and that's an example of what I might be bringing in upcoming episodes. So if you find that interesting, you can head over to jdsutter.me and the post for this episode, and there is a photo card with that quote on it that you can share on your socials if you would prefer. But while you're at the website, jdsutter.me, click the button in the sidebar on the homepage, add your email address to be notified of new episodes and new posts on my website, and that way you won't miss anything. Of course, you can also subscribe to this podcast feed wherever you get podcasts. Also, don't forget, a transcript of this episode, as well as links to the related resources, can be found at jdsutter.me/CCM11. You can send your feedback to show@jdsutter.me, and I'll talk with you next time. Adios.